fans, UFL fans, well, let's get back to my observations of how Week 1 went. The number one thing, considering the rush job they had to do, get things together, the playbook, the rule changes, the merger. For Week 1 play, you had to be pretty satisfied. Now, I wouldn't say it was good as Week 1 of the reboot USFL or 2020 XFL or even the XFL last year, but those guys were not rushing anything those years. These guys had to put together a new league, form rules, get training camp, get a schedule, get the arenas and the stadiums lined up so they could do this. And listen, for the most part, they did a good job. And if you're going to complain about the timeline they had, when you consider the government rejected their first merger offer, you can't complain. The play this weekend was solid across the board. I was kind of worried about it looking like XFL 2001 because of it. Wasn't the case. The play was solid all weekend. Number two, whoever the odds makers were, the only thing they got right based on Week 1 was the Stallions. The Stallions looked like the best team. I thought they were the most stacked team. That come back with year 3 were pretty much the same bunch. The same coach. And they looked good again. And the two teams that had the worst odds, the Michigan Panthers and the San Antonio Brahmas, ended up winning their games and did a pretty good job doing it. San Antonio knocked off DC at home by 15. And of course, the 64-yard field goal by Jake Bates with 3 seconds left. A win's a win. So that was that's the second thing. The third thing, the two biggest plays of the weekend, again, special teams. The 64-yarder by Jake Bates was something else. And of course, the fake punt that San Antonio Brahmas did and the DC defenders, very well played. They did a good job there. Or you could say maybe the defenders were not ready because he had all the time in the world to throw that ball, and he found his center playing center field with a catch at the 5-yard line. But to me, those were the two biggest plays of the weekend. Both were special teams. For the attendance, when you consider we had 9,500 people in Detroit. Now I can't be disappointed because I believe the Sweet 16 and Elite 8 were there, right down the road. You consider that 9,500 people for a Panthers home game is not that bad. Arlington also had the Elite 8 at the American Airlines Arena in Dallas. They did 2,000 better than their average last year. Again, that is very good. San Antonio, 11 a.m. on an Easter morning in a city that has a lot of Christians. They did over 13,000. That is pretty good. And in Houston, had 9,100 fans. Again, Easter Sunday, around brunch time, where a lot of people go to brunch. That's not bad. Playing at Rice Stadium. Had this been any other weekend, I might have been disappointed, but considering what we were up against, you can't complain about the tennis this weekend. We'll see how it does next weekend, and we'll go from there. The fourth thing, stemming from the whole odds thing, we're going to have 8 solid teams this year. It's a matter of who executes the best. So when they give these preseason rankings or these odds, I kind of laugh at it like, wait a minute, everyone is a lot better than last year. You have twice as less teams and double the talent because a lot of players were crossed over from each league. And it showed. So I don't think, unless injuries decimate a team, this is not going to be an easy game for any team this year. Unless they get in a hot streak. Again, execution is everything. Another thing, having good coaches, veteran coaches, makes a difference. We don't have any Terrell Buckleys this year. We don't have any Hines Wards or Rod Woodsons. And it shows. Go look at the job Wade Phillips has done in San Antonio. That team has looked totally different from last year. And it shows. And when you consider he went up against another defensive madman named Greg Williams, and they know each other from the NFL, I'm sure he had to sit down with his offensive coordinator and say, look, this is what he does. This is what you should look for in a show, because even though Greg Williams did put on a good defensive show, the Brahmas took advantage of what they gave him. It's just the way Luis Perez did last year in that championship game. Greg Williams does not make adjustments. Let's put it out there. Another thing is, you know what? Rice Stadium is not that bad. I was worried about it, but when I looked at it, and of course, believe it or not, this stadium hosted a Super Bowl years ago. Many years ago in the 70s. Yes, it's old. It's an old school college stadium. Brick walls, which I like. Old bleachers. You got the college building and one in the end zone. But the field looked nice. They had the end zones painted with the Houston Roughnecks name on it and their colors. And you saw the blue and white stripes go down to the 20-yard line, which happens to work out because that's the Rice Owls colors, and that's 2 of the 3 of the Houston Roughnecks thing. So it looked good. It looked good on camera. The field looked good. Let's face it, this looked 20 times better than Cashman Field did last year. So I know it's not TDECU Stadium, but I think we'll be all right with Rice Stadium. That's just my opinion. The other thing that was important to me this weekend, because we have twice as less teams, the offensive lines on all these teams, for the most part, looked real good. Now, at this time of year, you expect the defenses to be ahead. I expect that. But the offensive lines were not terrible either. They were pretty solid. And I said it. I say it every year. If any spring football league's gonna make it, they need some high quality offensive linemen. Because if you don't have that, no matter what quarterback you put back there, he's going to get killed. And because the lines look good, a lot of these QBs for week 1 look pretty good. Chris Garbers of San Antonio look real good. I mean, he has a much better offensive line than Reed Sennett did last year and Jack Cohn did with San Antonio. Let's just be honest. Luis Perez has his first full year with the Renegades. The Renegades line last year was pretty good. It'll be better this year. But overall, the defenses were ahead, which is not surprising, but the offensive lines look good, which means these quarterbacks will hopefully last longer. They won't be as beat up, which is an important thing for this league. Something else that I noticed this weekend. Oh, yes. The losses on the offensive side for the DC Defenders is real. With the retirement of Hammond, Chris Blake going to Atlanta, Lucky Jackson going to Minnesota, and losing Abram Smith for the year, the DC offense had trouble yesterday getting the ball in the end zone, and they're going to be searching for an identity for quite a while. Now, do they have the talent to do it? Yes, they do. That is a good team over there. Richie Ball's a good coach. Fred Geis is a good coordinator. And Greg Williams, you know what you get out of Greg Williams. Attack, attack, attack. But the losses, those 4 big losses on just the offensive side alone for DC hurt us yesterday. So we'll see how my beloved Defenders do. Something else, the coverage for both Fox and ESPN was pretty good. I mean, we got a lot of transparency. Dean Blandino and his communication with the broadcast teams from both Fox and ESPN were there. They did a good job. You get a lot of access, and it just makes the league a lot more fun. So that's something else I noticed yesterday also. What else can we talk about here? The Stallions look like the champions we've seen the last 2 years, despite the fact that Alex Magoo, their quarterback of last year, is gone with the Packers, and J.M.R. Smith, who won their first championship is a third string right now. I'm still not sure if he's hurt or not, but the fact that, they have Matt Corral and it was Adrian Martinez. Matt Corral had a tough first half yesterday, but he looked pretty good in the second half. And I'm surprised because J.M. Smith has been in that offense now for 2 years. He's been in that type of offense since college. I was surprised when I saw him not start. But that tells you how good the Stallions are when a team with that much talent and continuity in Season 3 can give you a whole other quarterback and still look like the champions they did the last 2 years. Something else, the Renegades look like the Renegades we saw the first 10 weeks. I still think they're much better than last year. This is going to be a tough league. There's not going to be any easy games. That's my guess. Unless one team is decimated by injuries, this should be a fun year. Let's see. Upcoming week 2, we have San Antonio going to Memphis for their home opener. That's a 12 o'clock game Saturday. Then the primetime game, Arlington and St. Louis at the Dome. That should be a fun atmosphere. I'm sure the fans in St. Louis will be rocking. And on Sunday, we have Birmingham at Michigan. So Birmingham's on the road for the first 2 weeks. We'll see how better the crowd is. I'm hoping with the Michigan Wolverines winning the national championship and the Lions doing as good as they did in last week's good win, I think we can have a much better crowd at Ford Field. And finally, the Rabbit of the Week, my decent defenders make their home debut against the Houston Roughnecks. So there's your schedule for next week. Now, is there a game that stands out to me here? I think just for atmosphere purposes, St. Louis should be the loudest. DC should be fun also. But as far as the competition goes, no, these should all be very good games. That's just my opinion. So, there you have it, my observations of week 1 of the new United Football League. Yes, I know I'm going XFL old school here, but when I get a UFL hat, I will wear it in my videos also. So, don't be hating on me for that. Like I said, Wade Phillips, having veteran coaches makes a huge difference. And I believe that's it. Now, if you want to add anything, put your comments down below. Like and subscribe to this channel. This was a good week 1. It's going to get better as we go along. And I'm very hopeful of that. The next big thing is, I think we should have the Reigns by tomorrow on Tuesday. I'm looking forward to those. I think the Reigns are actually going to be pretty solid. One is the curiosity of how this league is going to look. The whole USL, XFL thing really took on social media. And listen, to all you people who are, USFL is so much better. I got news for you USFL fans. Depending on what team you're rooting for, you're gonna be rooting for the XFL teams if your team wants to make the playoffs this year. And vice versa, with the XFL people are gonna be rooting for the USFL teams. So their team get the playoffs. And listen, I was happy when Michigan and Birmingham won because I thought it helped DC. We ended up losing. 3 teams 0-1, and the Browns had the early 1-0 record. So put your comments down below. What you think about week 1? Were you impressed? Were you not impressed? What would you like to see? We'll talk to you later. And let's enjoy week 2.